G'day all and welcome back to the Freo Faithful podcast, episode 21. And I haven't actually thought about who's worn the 21 for the Fremantle Football Club. Who currently wears number 21? Do we even have Omac? He had a decent game on the weekend, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I think Joel Hamming wore it before him, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yep. I mean, he's not done too well at the Swans, but couple, third string fullbacks have worn the 21 for the Dockers.
Dower defenders.
Pretty dour. I don't think Joel Hamling had a great game on the weekend, but I tell you who did have a good game, and that was the Fremantle Football Club. We got over the line against Hawthorn. A come from behind victory yet again. Down by 13 at three-quarter time, come back to win a season-defining game. You enjoyed that on Saturday night?
Oh, mate, yeah. God, it was very cold and brisk at the game. You know, you're sitting there going, gee whiz, if we lose this game, you're going to be regretting all your life choices, basically risking hypothermia sitting there. You know, the game got going. I was like, oh, gee whiz, this is squeaky bum time. Got to the third quarter. I was like, oh, boy, this isn't good. But, mate, the last quarter, unbelievable. Great game to watch. For a Mutual fan, for a Dockers fan, I'm sure it was a great watch. For a Hawthorn fan, probably less so. But, yeah, I enjoyed it, mate. It was a great game.
It was a great watch indeed. And it was sort of just highlighted by the heart and the pressure that we showed. It's sort of been the thing that's been highlighted all throughout the week in sort of the come down of the game. It wasn't necessarily a pretty game by us. It wasn't a game where we executed everything perfectly. I thought our skills for three quarters were pretty deplorable. And I wouldn't say they were very good in the fourth. But when you lay 103 tackles, the most tackles that any team has laid in a game this season, and when you show that much hunger, that much fight, Andy Brayshaw having claret squirting from every part of his body. It was a game just that personified the town of Fremantle, the port city, the hardworking nature, the working class. It was just an infectious sort of performance. And it's a game we haven't seen in so long from the Dockers. Like, yes, we can have a game where we beat a team through skill and execution and whatnot, but that felt like a turning point.
Mate, geez, it's trouble for the brick wall behind me because you're getting me ready to run through it, but you're spot on, mate. Haven't had a game like this in a long time. We averaged 60 tackles this year and we went 103, as you said. So that's 40 above our average and 50 more than last week. So it's just a polar opposite game. Like, there wasn't a single player I could say he wasn't afraid to put his body on the line for the team. And that last quarter, mate, it's one of the most inspiring quarters of football I've seen by the Dockers, probably since the Ross Lyon days. It was, absolutely off the charts. As you said, Brayshaw led from the front. I think he had 14 tackles. Not sure what his career high is, but that would have to go close. I thought Sarong as well. He fought back very well. We did have a bit of a go at him last week, but cannot say the same this week. He really reversed his form, which was a very interesting. I was actually stunned. Hawthorn. They might have tried to put some time into him, but it didn't really work very well. He was back to his best. But yeah, I thought it was a good team effort the entire way through. It's hard to pick apart players who underperformed. As you said, the entire team just lifted, especially in the last quarter. And I think that is a bit of a season-defining win, and it shows maybe the group's taken a step forward. You know, like, how confident would you have been if I told you the situation we win at three-quarter time that we would have done what we did? Like, we held Hawthorn to their lowest quarter score of the year by 2 points in the last quarter. So, like, just superb, mate. It's it could turn our season. I mean, it's not like turning our season. It wasn't like it was going downhill, but it gives me confidence that we can take on anyone, anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, Caleb Strong was saying in the post game that during the week, execution wasn't really a massive focus. It was just all about, tackle attempts and intent and hunt at the footy and at the player. And it was so evident. As I've already mentioned, the disposal wasn't great. But when you can win a game against a team that good by just showing pure intent and letting sort of the forwards get to work and the ground ball guys get to work in whatever way they can, and to win a game like that, do you sort of feel like there's a bit of a shift in the tide? Like, I don't want every single, listener to this podcast to be thinking we're going to win the premiership at the end of this. But do you feel like this is a bit of a turning point in our season, like our club? As you said, this is sort of Ross line areas. And that was the last time we had a real turning point at Freo.
I think I've never seen the Dockers play like that under JL. So I feel like it sort of adds a string to our bow. Like, if you ask me, can we go toe for toe with another fellow top 8 team, like a slog fest, be more physical than them? I'd probably doubt it. But after saying that, Hawthorn are a pretty physical team, experienced big bodies, and we went, nah, not today, fellas, and just outbodied them and outwanted and outhunted them. So I haven't seen that under JL, as I said. That's literally, as you mentioned, Ross Lyon sort of stuff. So obviously you haven't got Ross Lyon, thank God. But that was the sort of stuff you'd see under him, and it was inspiring. And if you're a fan of the Dockers and you watched that last quarter and wasn't entertained and delighted, then you're probably supporting the wrong football team, because that was, unseen. And I hope it's repeated when needed. I hope it's not just a one-off, I should say that, because it was a great watch, mate. Great watch.
It was a fantastic watch, and we got back to our physical ways in the midfield as well. Caleb and Andy are still super young. As you just mentioned, Caleb not getting tagged was baffling. Like, they brought in Finn McGuinness, they played him as the sub, and I sort of thought, okay, they might go with Connor Nash for the tag, but Sarong got no attention all night. McGuinness came on, didn't do any. I mean, McGuinness came on and kicked the goal.
Kicked a nice goal.
He didn't do anything in terms of neglecting Sarong. So it was really odd. We got to bring in Jago O'Meara, who was that older sort of guy, back into the 22. And while he didn't rack up the ball heaps, I thought his physical presence was pretty important in winning the ball or some ascendancy out of the middle, which, again, it wasn't our terms all day, but it was certainly better than the last 2 weeks. But just the maturity that keeps on being built. And we're still such a young team, aren't we?
Oh, 100%, mate. Young team, you say. My old man, shout out senior, he would be very, very angry I didn't mention him for doing his research. But he went to the AFL player ratings, which I think you can find on the AFL website, and basically went, let's look at the bottom 6 players in each team and go, so that's by average. You have to have played at least 8 games. Dockers' bottom 6 players you're interested this year. This is all statistics, no one's opinion. The bottom 6 players who have played at least 8 games is Amiss, Dudley, Sharp, Draper, Warner, and Voss. Take those bottom 6 players, that puts us third least experienced compared to Hawthorn, who are actually the 5th most experienced team. I did the same for top 10 players. Top 10, I can go through it quickly. It's no surprise. Jackson, Brayshaw, Sarong, Bolton, Clark, Switter, Pearce, Tracy, Wagner, and Murphy. And that puts us 4th least experienced out of those top 10 best players according to the ratings, where Hawthorn, they're actually only 10th, but we're unexperienced. And to go and put that sort of effort up in the last quarter, just as a whole, that's not the sort of performance you see from an inexperienced side. Like, that's maturity. I reckon just like that sort of game has to add confidence to every single player who's out there, especially the least experienced ones. Like, we showed we didn't look scared or didn't shrug away from the task of going up against Hawthorn, and matching them physically, which, as I've just proven to you, we've got a young side. It's promising, mate. But as you said, I don't want to get too carried away, but gee whiz, it doesn't make you excited, and I'm not sure many things will.
I'm not sure how many podcasts we've done this year where we've been this excited. I personally haven't been this excited after a win this year. And I'm not sure what it was, because it wasn't a clean performance. It wasn't our prettiest performance, and we could have done so many things better. But we usually lose that game, and we won it. And we won it in pretty convincing manner in the end.
If you factor in that we came from behind at 3/4 time the way we won, it's unheard of. That's probably why we're both so excited. I'm sure not the only people excited, but if you combine the style of the way we won and where we came from in terms of where the game was at, I think that probably explains our excitement.
Yeah, absolutely. We can sort of take a few things out of that game of the weekend and take it into Collingwood, in particular the hunt, the pressure. If we can, I'm not expecting us to lay 103 tackles again, but if we can get anywhere near that mark, then I think that will go a long way in giving us a shot against the Pies, which 48 hours ago, at the time of recording this, if you said we had a sniff of, doing something to Collingwood next week, then you probably would have been called crazy. So, look, we can take things out of that game, the hunt, the pressure, the desire, whatnot, but we definitely can't play in the same way. And I thought JL coached us really, really well on the weekend. We played in a slow manner. We played in a predictable manner. And it took the sting and the chaos out of the game, which played into our favour. Because you don't want to give guys like Dylan Moore, Jack Ginnivan, Nick Watson heaps of time to get to work at ground level. Like, Ginnivan had a really good game. But for the most part, that sort of trio didn't get the impact that Sam Mitchell probably would have wanted out of them. Now, Collingwood are a completely different sort of team. They love playing that slow, methodical sort of brand. So now, do you think we've got the tools in the kit bag to play a faster game style and to maybe catch them a bit off guard, like the Suns did on Friday?
Well, last time we played them, they punished us on turnover. So, we controlled the ball a lot, surprisingly, last time we played them, but it was poor skills which cost us. And look, have we improved that much skill-wise since then? I'm going to say no, because it's only been, 6 or 7, 8 games, 10 games? Yeah. It's less than 10 games. I can't remember when we played them. But I don't know how JL will want to play them. We did a lot of things right last time we versed them. From top of my head, we dominated the inside 50s. I think we might have even won clearances by a margin. I can't remember exactly, but
Plus
I don't know if you
29
want to play
inside 50. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you want to play too differently. And the only thing we lacked was like skill and execution, which it's impossible to predict what level we'll turn up to in that. But I think we have got the game style to match Collingwood as we've shown. We probably should have beaten them, and we did dominate them. So I'm not overly positive and confident. Oh, yep, get on, boys, we're going to win. Fill your pockets, tippers, everything. I'm not going to say that, but I'm not scared, which is probably going to age horribly. But I think we have the capabilities to go over there. We play well at the MCG. If you take away the Melbourne game earlier this year, I think we can match them. If we have the class to beat them, that's a whole different story. But I think JL can coach a way for us to be competitive at the least.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we're going to win. I think anyone tipping Freo isn't silly, but they've certainly got some balls. It's going to be the most hostile crowd we've played in since that 2022 semi-final as well. I think that's something not many people are talking about. Like, we don't often play in front of this many opposition fans. There'll be 60, 70K there on Sunday. So it's a huge game. And to have back-to-back sort of finals-like games this late in the year is really, really beneficial. Like, we've got a Friday night game against Brisbane, the second last game of the season. That'll probably have the same sort of feel about it. So to have these games towards the back end of the season, if we can actually qualify for the 8, I think we're going to be really well placed to sort of attack these hostile environments. I think this Collingwood game is certainly our hardest game of the season, and it's our biggest test of the season. And to have the belief that's just brewed out of that Hawks game going into it, it's super important.
Well, just to hash back to the game on the weekend, I went through obviously last week. I reeled off some stats, and I thought I should go and compare the ones I mentioned last week to what happened this week. But Brayshaw, Strong, and Bolton, so they went 74 disposals, 2 goals, 18 tackles, 15 score involvements. That's +6 on last week, and 19 clearances, which is +7. Now that's the sort of output we need from our 3-star midfielders to be able to compete with these good teams. You can't just get beaten and roll over and let them win clearance. Because if we get dominated by clearance by a good team, then it's very, very unlikely we win. So that was a good improvement, I thought, by the midfield. We didn't get dominated. I think it was about even the midfield stats, but that's all we need. Like, we're solid enough down back to be able to cop it. But if we're getting beaten by 20, 30 clearances, that's when it's trouble. So I thought our midfield lifted, but it's a tough task against Collingwood this week, mate. Real tough task. But, I think last time we played them, Darcy Cameron really dominated. But I think that was Darcy's second or third game back. So hopefully he learnt something from it and can compete better in the ruck. But I think Darcy holds a very big key to this matchup against Darcy Cameron this week.
Absolutely. I think the midfield is going to be a very, very big talking point. And let's continue on with the midfield. But from the game on Saturday, as you just mentioned, I thought they really got back to work. And it's so baffling. We've already talked about it, but the first key to beating Fremantle is tagging Caleb Sarong, and they just did nothing to him. So I think Caleb was always going to have a big game when you don't do anything to him, and when he's in that kind of mood, coming off back-to-back games where he was completely shut out of it. Andy Brayshaw, what else can you say about this bloke other than just heart, soul? He just rarely has a bad game, and he does absolutely everything for the club. He personifies Fremantle.
He does, mate. He's a Docker. Like, that post-match scenes after the game, that will go down. I'll probably never forget that. Like, that is just ridiculous. I saw a photo of the cut on his head earlier, and it literally looked like it was 10 centimeters long. Like,
yeah,
to just cop it and do an interview after the game, it sums him up as a bloke. Like, where's his heart and his sleeve and his blood in his head, clearly. But I couldn't even name I couldn't name you 5 games. I thought he's had a terrible one, to be honest. Like, off the top of my head, I couldn't even name you 2 games this year he's been terrible in Brayshaw. Like, just so consistent. I'm going to need him to be at the same level this week, and his tackling pressure and his disposal work to be able to beat Collingwood. But no, he was probably arguably our best player. Maybe 1 or 2 you could say were better, but Brayshaw, yeah, just a champion. I'm not calling him a champion yet, but he's well on his way to be a champion of our football club, mate.
Championing Andy Brayshaw is one of the most disrespectful things that's ever been said on this podcast. That is just...
I championed him, not champed him. That's
okay, yeah, no. Fair enough. Our midfield rotation was a lot shorter this week, I noticed.
Yeah,
so obviously, Raz wasn't in the team. Nathan O'Driscoll continued to get no centre bounces. It was really just Brayshaw, Sarong, Bolton, and O'Meara, because Corey Wagner didn't get any time in there either. So
no,
it was odd. We sort of shortened the rotation. I want to speak about Matt Johnson, because he was a guy that had to get more centre bounces as a result of us doing that. What did you think of his game?
Look, no knock on the bloke. He can find the ball, but God, is there anyone in the team you get more scared about than have the ball in their hands than Matt Johnson? Like, he can find the ball. He's a big body. He applies tackling pressure around contests most of the time, but he gets. How many touches did he have? I think he had 19 touches and he went at 60% efficiency. So, like, I think sometimes, he had 22 touches and went at 60% efficiency. So, I feel like he can get the ball, which is half the challenge, but sometimes I feel like he just needs to know what his role is. But I thought he played okay. He definitely earns his spot over Erasmus. I'm not going to complain about Erasmus being dropped and Johnson staying in because I think that's the right decision. But I did find it interesting how he literally had 0 centre bounces, which I think it's the second time it's happened this year. The other time was against St Kilda, but it must have been, obviously, with the centre bounce rotation that's tight. He came with a plan, JL, and he can't knock his plan because obviously it works. But I did find it interesting. But last time we played Collingwood, he had only 10% of centre bounces as well. So we'll see how he goes this week, if it was by design or was it just because of the matchup. But yeah, I thought he played okay, Johnson, but geez, he scares me when he has the ball in his hands.
Yeah, he certainly does. I want to speak about the rucks. Luke Jackson, I don't think there was too much to write home about. Like, he played his role really well, but I don't think he was outstanding like we've seen him be this season. And sometimes that's all he needs to be. If he can just play his role, while the other big rough dog, Sean Darcy, has a brilliant game, then sometimes that's all we need. Sean Darcy, in my opinion, was one of the best on for Fremantle on the weekend. I thought he sort of showed us that he's close to being back to his best. If not, he might already be back at his best. I don't think, certainly me, I'm going to speak from a personal point of view. I didn't see him getting back to this level. I was a bit worried that he wouldn't be able to get to these heights in terms of moving around the ground and his ball use and impacting on the scoreboard. And he's completely shut me down and a lot of the other fan base down. How good was the fridge on the weekend?
Very good. I went and looked at Darcy and Jackson this week. They had a plus 23 in hit-outs. They improved their disposal count. They did go -5 in clearances, which might not be a bad thing because we had the actual midfielders getting our hands on the ball, so play more effective clearances. But what I did find interesting was Meek had 13 tackles when both had ruckman had 8 tackles, which is, you could say, damning, but you can't knock him. Darcy, I think, was, again, this week the better ruckman out of the two. Jackson didn't impact as much around the ground, but you can't expect him to be a hero every week. But yeah, I think Darcy, mate, I think, as I said before, he's very important this week. And I think this could be the week coming up against Collingwood where Darcy stamps himself back to his best. But if they're going to collect 56 hit-outs a week and go at 25 disposals and kick a goal, that's pretty good output. And I think that one goal could have been, I think Jackson, did he miss it? I feel like Jackson might have, I can't remember if Jackson missed a chance or not. No, he didn't. I'm making stuff up. But Jackson that was probably the least damaging Jackson looked up forward. I don't think he even, did he mark it inside 50? I'm not sure.
Well, I don't think he played as much forward as he has in recent weeks.
He was around the ball quite a bit, which I think he was more just to nullify the big body aspect of Hawthorn. He didn't damage by a foot didn't rack up the disposals, but I thought his physical influence around the contest obviously helped Brayshaw and Sarong get their hands on the ball more. So, yeah, I can't knock either of their games. But Darcy, encouraging signs, mate, encouraging signs.
Very encouraging. It was also the first time in a while he started the game at the centre bounce, and Luke Jackson started as a rover as well. So a bit of a different look from the very beginning of the game, and I thought that sort of worked in our favour. We had a good start to the game, and it was as a result of those two working in tandem in the middle of the park. Now, you were just discussing before, is there a bloke that you're more scared of than when Matt Johnson has the ball in his hands? And I've got an answer for you. The 2022 semi-final, when Brandon Walker picked up the ball, at every possible instance, I was at the MCG, there was a collective grasp in the Fremantle pocket of the stadium. It was terrifying. I don't want to know his disposal efficiency on the day, but it was a really, really scary sight. Now, that's just a little flashback because Brandon Walker's improved that part of his game a fair bit ever since 2022, and he's slowly creeping back to have his first game or first, second, or third game of the year. I think he played a couple in round 1 and round 2. I've got a feeling that he will be included back in the team this week. Bailey Banfield got subbed out at halftime, 3/4 time, around that mark. Would you be happy with Brandon Walker coming back into the squad?
Well, on my trusty notebook, I have written down Walker, Arrow, Banfield. I think he's in must to line up on. I think Walker has to go Jamie Elliott, mate. Simple as that. Because we said, I said to you, I was worried about the 3 small forwards, which to be fair, Moore and the Wizard didn't do too much, but one of them got off the chain, which was Ginnivan. And if Elliott won't touch the ball as much as Ginnivan, but if he gets as much opportunity as Ginnivan did, then he could probably kick a bag. And I think did he kick 5 or 6 when he played a million year?
Something like that. He might have kicked 7. I'll be honest. Keep talking. I'll check.
Yeah. I literally I just think Walker. It's a straight swap for Banfield. Got subbed out. Banfield, look, he tries. He's not the greatest defender. He doesn't offer much rebounding. Walker. I said to my old man, they didn't pick him this week, and it can't have been because of match fitness because Pure had the bye. So if it's because of form, then Banfield's been subbed off in the third quarter, and Walker's sitting there waiting in the wings. I think it's a simple change. I actually wrote down to the best of my ability, which I think our matchup should be defensively for Collingwood. I obviously had Walker going to Elliott. I had Schultz. That's a job for maybe Kyle Warner. Membry, I had Oscar McDonald or Pearce if Pearce plays. Obviously, the deepest forward for Collingwood usually. McStay, Brennan Cox. Myercheck, I had Chapman because he's a bit more mobile. Myercheck, I think Chapman could be able to match him. Hoskin Elliott, I went Luke Ryan, and then now I'm not sure if Collingwood include, but last week they had Connor, what's his name, Lockie Sullivan, running around in the half forward line. I think that's a perfect matchup for Jordan Clark. He doesn't have to be that accountable defensively, Clark. So I think that could be a good matchup for him. But I just think the biggest worry I have is Jamie Elliott, and that's why I don't know Walker will be included, but I hope he is because it just seems like a logical solution to my worry. Because Banfield defending one of Schultz or Elliott, that scares me.
Yeah, Jamie Elliott only had 14 touches last time he played us, and he kicked 6 goals too.
So didn't do much. I'll take it back. Sorry,
he had a quiet day at the office. But he's just, you don't have to give him much for him to absolutely tear you to shreds. Now Bobby Hill kicked 3 that day. It doesn't look like he's going to play. I think he's going to come back through the
That's
VFL.
who I thought they might play. Sullivan. Yeah. That's what I didn't know if they're going to play. Because if Bobby Hill plays, you expect they drop Lockie Sullivan. That's what I wasn't sure about. But I think I did see earlier today VFL maybe.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. But they're a very, very scary prospect, Collingwood. Obviously, they manage Myercheck and Lipinski against the Gold Coast. Now, I don't want to get every Fremantle fan's hopes up with what I'm about to say, but keep your eye on Nick Dacos. Nick Dacos is a watch if he gets up. He had a bit of awareness during the game on Friday. Now he does this. He loves the drama, does old Nicky. But when he's getting injections on the bench on Friday, now that was probably just to get him through the game. I'm not sure how he's going to hold up after the real long half an hour flight back to Melbourne and the 8-day break.
Long travel for them, mate.
That's very long travel. But I was
really hoping that Collingwood would go over the line because they might have been inclined to rest Dacos if they had won. Now they've still got, I think, 6-point lead on top of the ladder, but I was really hoping they scraped home, not only for the sake that we're competing with Gold Coast for spot in the 8, but so maybe they're more inclined to rest players. But yeah, that's right. His ankle was a bit hairy going, Dacos, but that's okay, mate. They got Pendlebury who they rested for half a game to step in just in case he doesn't play. So that's all good.
Yeah. Dacos got held to 18 touches last time we played, I remember, with that Corey Wagner tag. Wagner. So I think we will be deploying that again. It's obviously different gravy doing that at the MCG when the crowd's completely against you. And Collingwood like to sort of team battle against the tagger. We've been criticised for how we handle however we handle a situation when Sarong gets clamped, and Collingwood do it better than any other team of the comp. So that's certainly going to be a watch.
Yeah. Well, he got a hold of him last time, but do you really think that Nick Dacos is the sort of bloke who can get nullified by the same bloke twice in a row? He'd probably watch his film play religiously knowing that guy. So it does scare me, but like head-to-head midfield-wise, it's like Dacos is a different level of gravy, but I think last time we held our own to an extent. I think Brayshaw had 30 plus. Sarong played all right, but if you nullify Nick Dacos, it does help you a lot to obviously beat Collingwood in the midfield. But yeah, Wagner, I think you'd be stupid not to at least try and start with it and see what happens. I mean, if it doesn't work, go back to half-back Wags, that's fine. But it'd be interesting to see how we match up in the middle of them.
Yeah, certainly. We were just talking about the Walker Banfield thing before. We'll head back to the Hawks game and sort of how our backline handled Hawthorn on the weekend, and we conceded a pretty low score. What, they scored 66 from memory, I want to say.
64.
64. So pretty impressive effort to hold a really valiant Hawks forward line to 64, only conceded 2 points in the last quarter, as you've already said.
Yep.
Now, I think they held their own defensively really well. Like Luke Ryan, Heath Chapman, Brennan Cox, Oscar McDonald, Carl Warner, Jordan Clark. I think defensively they all played really well. Luke Ryan was rewarded in the coaches' votes. But something we're not going to get away with against Collingwood on the weekend is some of the disposal out of the back half. In particular, Luke Ryan and Heath Chapman, I was tense every time they got the ball at certain stages. I think Luke Ryan got kicked off kickouts in a stage in the game. And I was calling for it. I think JL heard. Look, we know how good Luke is. He's having a brilliant year, and we know how good Chappie is in terms of his ball usage. But it's certainly something that not just those two, but the entire back six has to clean up.
Yeah, you can't, like, obviously that was a high pressure game, but you can't be making simple errors like that. I think Warner bummed one out in the full as well. Like Collingwood, as I said before, last time we played them, absolutely punished us on turnover, and that's literally one way to basically give them the game, just by making stupid, not always unforced errors, but just silly errors out the back. Like, we have to be firm. Like, we held our own when we were defending, but when we were trying to attack and rebound, some of the decision making and just skill execution was just waffle level. So that has to improve. But our back six did go +6 on last week on intercepts. So they played well. Our back six. I think Banfield, again, if he's playing this week, then dearie me. That's all I'll say. I don't want to keep rehashing on it, but the thought of him lining up, like, who does it even? I can't even pick a Collingwood 40 as a chance of beating one-on-one. I don't want to keep going on about it, but I saw his name on my page. I'm like, oh god, no. But
it's funny
because
Banners is like one of the most likable blokes in our club, and he has not put a foot wrong for a number of weeks during this winning streak. And he's had one bad game, and he is the whipping boy. And I don't think he played well, and I think he deserved to get subbed. And I think him going out of the team is probably the right decision this week. But geez, we are a harsh fan base when it comes to Bailey Banfield. Like, we have stuck with guys like Matt Johnson and Neil Erasmus and whatnot for that long. And Bailey Banfield is one bad game, and he just gets the whip, doesn't he? I don't know. Some people or some players and fan bases are just, whipping boys. But yeah, I think Banners might be set for a spell in the twos, but he's put together a pretty good season for us so far.
I think I'm not saying drop Dudley, but even if Banfield was a sub and Walker came in, like, you'd have to drop Dudley to do that. But I'm not suggesting do so. But Banners is literally the perfect sub. Like, wasn't it a couple of years ago he subbed like 15 times or something? Like, now he's added the defensive element into his game. He's literally the perfect sub. So, but I just think defensively, Walker was a much, much safer defender. And when you got that potent forward line, mate, it just if you let one of them off the chain, they'll punish you. So it'll make me feel safer watching it, that if we don't have someone like Warner or no knock on Warner, but I just don't think he's got the capabilities to shut down Jamie Elliott.
Nah, I'm in the same boat, to be honest. We've gone through the backs who defensively held up their end of the bargain, but do circle in there, clean up on a few things. What did we think of the forwards? Certainly an interesting talking point because, Josh Tracy, Pat Voss didn't really have the biggest impact until the final term. I thought, they competed well and they presented well, but they didn't really get their hands on the footy as much as they probably would have wanted to. Jai Amos kicked those two, but still struggled to make an impact in the game. It was a tough day for our tools until the final term.
Well, you want to talk about forward line? I've got 2 words for you, and it's Sam Switkowski.
Yep.
Gee whiz. He comes back in and he makes every one of our forwards look better, mate. He is probably, I'm going to come out and say it, the most underrated player in the AFL. Like, that's a big statement.
Lock it in.
Wow.
Why not?
What a player. Unbelievable.
What a gun. He is such a good player, Sam Switkowski, and I'm going to go out on a limb as well. That's maybe too big a limb. Is he in our top 3 most important players? I was going to say our most important, but where would you rank him in terms of our most important players? Because I'd say Josh Tracy's in the mix. Alex Pearce was my number 1 for quite a while, but sort of we won a few games without him. I love Moose, but when you can do that, Caleb Sarong's probably in there, and Luke Jackson's probably in there. I'd say Sarong, Jackson, and
he's comfortably in the top
Tracy.
5. I think he's 5th or 4th, but he's in the top 5. Based off the things I read out earlier, those rankings, he's ranked 6th this year out of our players. but that's got above him. It's got Clark, who I don't think is as important, or maybe Clark is. It's got Clark above him, Bolton, Sarong, Brayshaw, and Jackson above him. And look, you can't really argue it. He's comfortably one of our most important players. And besides Tracy, he's definitely our most important forward. Like 10 coaches' votes, and rightly so, mate. Oh, God, he was good. I think he had 3 goals, 15 touches, and 8 of his touches were score involvements. So, you know, I don't know how many tackles he laid. Give me 2 seconds. Tackles inside 50, he laid 2 of them. Tackles as a whole, Sam Switkowski, he had 5 tackles. So, look, just ticked every box you need him to tick. Used his disposal well, hit the scoreboard, tackled. He's such a good link-up player. Like, when you see, like, us streaming out of the back line, you go Clark to Brayshaw, and then you see Switter receiving a handball. I literally think and see Switter get that ball streaming into our forward line. I'm going, that's a goal. Don't worry about it. He is just, him and Murphy Reid, probably, there's no one else I'd rather kicking the ball inside 50.
Absolutely. Murphy Reid's he had a mature game of the weekend, I thought, because he struggled to impact for a fair bit of it in terms of, actually getting the ball and maybe doing something in front of goal. But, for a young player, he's 18, 19, to be out of a game for that long and then just to get the ball once and deliver the entry he did to Patrick Voss in the last quarter. Like, the maturity, there are a lot of players who are over 30 in the AFL. Now, I'd say most players over 30 in the AFL that would get in their own head and would get panicked about not being in a game for so long, and they would fuck up their first opportunity to actually make an impact on the game. Murphy Reid, I'm not saying he had a bad game, but it certainly wasn't his best for the year. 18 years of age, gets the ball once, and delivers our most important forward 50 entry of the game. I love this bloke so much.
Yeah, I'd give him a 10-year deal now. I know we've already signed already, but
I think 10's unders, mate. If we're not giving
him
him 20,
is he the most exciting young prospect we've had since, like, Anthony Morabito? I mean, Fife looked pretty good when he came on.
You're going to make me break down into tears if we start talking about Mora. Like,
yeah, sorry, mate, to give him the trigger warning. Sorry. But honestly, if he adds some size and can play like a Bolton midfield forward split, then I think he could be a better player than Shea Bolton. Like, I think he could be. I'm not going to say what I'm thinking, but he could be like a serious top 20.
We need a clip for the socials. Player.
I think he could be better than Lachie Neale. You heard it here first.
If Murphy Reid was 2 Brownlows, that would be the greatest call in this podcast history.
He's a similar build, right? Yeah. And it looks like he has the ability to win the ball. At least he did it under 18 level. And if he can win the ball like Lachie Neale does, the similar nuggety build, and I think he's already a better ball user than Lachie Neale, then that's where my theory comes from. I thought of the most similar sort of build of player.
Yeah. It's not a bad call.
But it's a big call, and hopefully no one clips this 15 years' time and sends it to me while I'm bloody 35 with kids and I'm laying there after a hard day at work and someone's clowning me for my Murphy Reid will be better than Lachie Neale call. But yeah, it gets me really excited if you couldn't tell. Some player.
It'll be on Instagram in 24 hours, mate. Don't you worry. Now, to be honest, he probably is our most exciting prospect since Fifey, I'd say. Like, Morrow was just a bit before Fifey, but I think since then, like, geez, his footy IQ is just off the chain. It's just a mental thing. Like, as I mentioned, to be out of the game for that long and to make the impact when he needs to, when the team really needs him to. Like, he had a brain lapse last week against the Swans. We needed a goal to sort of stay in touch, and he went around the body with that set shot directly in front. And we sort of lay him off a bit because he's a rookie and whatnot. But he's rectified that within a week. I think his mental game is growing as much as his footballing ability is week in, week out. And I think Murphy should absolutely be praised for it.
It's like, when you play some video games and like you're like a tense moment in the game and it like goes slow mode before something happens. That's like what happens when he gets the ball. It feels like the game just stops and like, it's just, I don't want to glaze
sure, like, what drugs David Mundy and Scott Pendlebury took throughout their career, but Murphy Reid's on whatever they're on. It's weird.
Like it's like they got David Mundy and Scott Pendlebury and somehow bred them. That's literally what it is. Now that's a bit off. That's a bit extreme, but that's literally what he's like.
Do not picture that. Jesus. And
they took their genetics to make it sound less. How you going? They took the Pendlebury and Mundy genetics, and here you go. Here's Murphy Reid. Unbelievable.
Yeah, righto. Yeah, I'm not even sure where to go to from that. We've basically talked about every line from who played well on the weekend.
Sorry, as mentioned, the small forwards, this is the sort of output you need. 5 goals, 42 disposals, 11 tackles, 15 score involvements. that is the sort of output you need. Week in, week out could be too much of an ask, but in a big game like that, if you're getting that sort of output from Switter, Freddie, and Murphy Reid, you're going to win most of the games. Because, look at final series, mate. I think David King, the Freo's favourite pundit, always bangs on about how small forwards win finals games. You look at Bobby Hill won the Norm Smith. Or was it Cam Rayner and Zach Bailey last year in the grand final dominated? Like, these small forwards are often what separate the good from the bad when it comes to finals games. And look, I question Freddie's consistency, but if he shows up in a finals game, we will do damage. Freddie, because I back Switter to turn in, week out. But Michael Frederick, if he comes out and kicks 3 goals in a finals game, then watch out.
To be honest, I think Freddie has played 2 finals in his career, and he showed up in both of them. Like that Bulldogs game, he was close to best on ground. And then the Collingwood game, like I can't really remember how he played in general play, but he kicked that goal of the year contender from the pocket with about 10 seconds to go from 50 out. So I've got faith Freddie can do it on the big stage. Obviously, we've questioned his sort of in-season consistency a fair bit.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned. I'm not trying to target him, but that's why I mentioned Freddie out of all people, because he can be inconsistent. That's not. I'm got a personal vendetta against him, but he's probably, if you look at Switkowski, Frederick, and Murphy, he's probably the least consistent of them. That's why I mentioned his.
I'd agree. Yeah, absolutely. And Freddie started to clean that up in recent weeks to give credit to him. I think he's sort of impacting in ways which he hasn't always done. Like there have been a lot of games where he's going to kick 2 or 3 and he's not going to do a lot in general play, where I feel like he's sort of reversing that. He can sometimes not kick a goal and still have a fair impact. And he can kick 2 goals and have a good game overall. So yeah, I'm loving the way that Freddie's still building. I'm not sure how old Freddie is. I guess 24, 25.
Mid-20s, maybe?
Yeah, he's still young enough where he can develop and become a better footballer than he already is.
25.
25, yeah. So he's certainly not an old bloke.
An aerial aspect to his game he doesn't fully like. That you don't see. He feels like he's a really good overhead mark. You don't see it often.
He is. I'm not sure who it was. There was an interview a few years ago with one of our players, and they were sort of saying how much they value Freddie's aerial ability, and they actually make a conscious effort to go to him in aerial situations more often than not, because he just often can get to a higher reach than his direct opponent. So yeah, certainly something we've tried to use into our favour.
Yeah, no. But just about the tall forwards, 4 goals combined. Like you can look at now, you look at Fogarty, Walker, and Philford from Adelaide kicking 11 on the weekend. Now, I'm not asking for that level of output, but
no, we are every single week, 11 minimum.
It's 4 goals, even if you include Jackson, it's 4 goals from the 4 key forwards. But Jackson's a bit of a, I wouldn't really count him with the other 3. I think, look, you probably need more output than that, and they can't knock it too much. Clearly, 1, but I still think that they only got kicked 4 goals, but had 13 scoring involvements for key forwards. That shows, we questioned last week, are they mobile? Are they good around the ground? Are they good at ground level? But 7 tackles, 13 scoring involvements, and those 3 tall forwards. Now, if you keep that level and kick a few more goals, then no one can fault any of them.
Exactly right, and especially when they competed, they didn't necessarily not everything went their way, but they competed and they non-stop just battled and they dug in there and they got their reward in the 4th quarter. It was Jai Amos that was the one that got us off to a good start, and that good start can go a long way. If Hawthorn kick the first goal of that game, it's an alternate universe. You don't know how that game goes. And there are just so many little things in the game, where, our tools impact. You don't know how important it could be. So, yeah, shout out to them for just digging in. Wasn't necessarily their day, but, Josh Tracy taking that mark in a 3v1 in the last quarter felt like a turning point. Paddy Voss kicking that goal in the last quarter, taking the roof off. Felt like a turning point.
How confident were you in Voss kicking that goal? Be honest.
I was more confident than I usually am with Vossi, because I felt like that was our most important set shot of the day. Not just because of the scoreboard, but because it was Pat Voss. And when Pat Voss kicks a big goal in front of 50K in this situation, we win the game. And as soon as he kicked that goal, I knew we were going to win the game, because there's no way Vossi's kicking that and every single player on the field isn't wanting to run through a brick wall. So that was a big turning point.
If you take the Darcy and Voss set shot and you make them both kick it 100 times, how many times out of 100 they both kick it, you reckon?
The Darcy and Voss set shot, so both. I'm going to go Darcy kicks it 80 times. Like Sean Darcy statistically is one of our best set shots. He is a dead eye.
Okay.
I think he's 4 goals straight this year.
I would have had them both about 50-50, to be honest.
Pat
And then
Voss
both
kicks 40. Darcy kicks 70 or 80.
Yeah, I would have had a 1 in 4 or 5 chance they both went through, but thank God they did. But yeah, full credit to him. Darcy, that's 2 weeks in a row. He's had so that's
2
twice
home
in 3
games.
weeks. So clutch set shots. He's nailed them. So you can't. I think you can't knock Darcy's game at all this week. I thought he got around the ground well, as you mentioned before. Like there wasn't a hole in his game, and he just needs to hold that sort of level of form. And all that noise everyone makes about him, it'll be gone. But I think as a whole, just about the last quarter, I wanted to mention. So in the last quarter, we'll plus 26 score, plus 8 points from clearance, plus 3 points from plus 3 clearances, which shows to me that Lloyd Meek, statistically, his last quarter was very down in his previous 3 quarters, which shows me the double ruck. That's another time it's worn down the opposition ruckman in the last quarter as well. Like Rowan Marshall in that St Kilda game in the last quarter, and Tristan Cherry in the North Melbourne game in the last quarter. Like the double ruck, not only does it offer different looks forward around the midfield and stuff, but I think it's actually like as you hope it would. It's making the other opposition ruckman less impactful towards the end of the game. That's obviously ending up as taking over clearances towards the end of the game as well. So I think that's something that isn't talked about enough and why the double ruckman's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really starting to come through, and it's sort of working every week at the moment. Like when one gets you, when one doesn't get you, the other one tends to, and it's sort of interchanging. Like Luke Jackson was the guy that didn't necessarily play to his best on the weekend, and it was Sean Darcy that got us over the line. Like even that ground ball and the handball back to Shea Bolton from the goal square from Darcy, that was out of his repertoire. There's no reason why Big Sean should be doing that. So yeah, I thought he played really, really well, and it's definitely starting to come back into his best and into his own. And like you even look back to the Hawthorn game last year at UTAS, we went in with the solo ruck. I think Darcy was out injured. We had Jackson against Meek, and it was an absolute obliteration. And I think Darcy weighed down Meek enough where Jackson could get a few hit outs here and there against Meek. And in the end, we ended up winning the ruck on. Like Lloyd Meek had a brilliant game, don't get me wrong. But winning the midfield battle coincides with winning the ruck contest. And then we won the midfield battle, meaning we won the ruck contest.
Do you think that people were booing Sicily because of that UTAS game last year?
No, they were just booing Sicily because he was being Sicily all game. Like that, Vossi and Sicily were ragdolling. I actually forgot about that UTAS game until you just mentioned it.
You might make me think of it by mentioning the UTAS game.
In the last 5 minutes, I was standing level 1 at the back in the standing room in the last 5 minutes of the game. And I came around, I stood next to a Hawthorn fan, and James Sicily was like right at the boundary. I think he had the ball or whatever. He came to tackle. And, me and Dad, as any Fremantle fan in that situation would do, started booing him vigorously. And this Hawthorn fan, wasn't very happy. I think he had a fair few. And he's, what are you booing Sicily for, mate? And we were like, nah, it's because it's Sicily. He's been a bit of a dickhead to Voss today. And he's like, right, you're booing him because he's Sicily. Now, I've watched back the game. Every single person in that stadium was booing James Sicily in the second half. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, but look, this is a bit of a tangent, but in my time watching football, West Coast fans are angels compared to Hawthorn fans. In terms of my experiences, Hawthorn fans are so frustrating to interact with.
Mate, there was just some absolute tosses around me as well. I remember after the grand final, which I went to in 2013, unfortunately, there was even some blokes getting... how old was I? I was 9 years old. I remember I was wearing like these goofy like footy afro things with a little baby face, and like there's even Hawthorn like old fans getting stuck into me. I'm like, mate, like come on now. But I do it.
That is not an original. That's not an original experience, mate. I was 6 years old at the grand final. I was getting old men stuck into me. They are incredibly... I'm not sure how to describe them, but geez.
But one other thing I mentioned last week, which I criticised the Dockers, was the pressure act. So we had one of the top 11 last week. This week it was 7 of the top 11. So that is a big, big improvement from the boys. And again, that's another thing that has to stay that way for us to be damaging the rest of the season. Got to bring the pressure, especially against a team like Collingwood.
Absolutely. And let's speak a bit more about that Collingwood game now, because a fair bit's changed. Before that, or ever since that Collingwood game, we've only had one loss, and that was the loss last week. before that Sydney game, our last loss was against Collingwood. So after that Collingwood game, we hit an incredible patch of form, and we're a very, very changed team now. And it's interesting to see how different we'll be on the weekend. And we've got a fairly different team to what we fielded back in round 9. We had Neil Erasmus playing that game. We had Cooper Simpson. We had Jeremy Sharp. We were going solo ruck. We were going dogger with Vossi chopping out.
Pierce. Don't know. That's question.
Yes.
Mark.
Oh, sorry. I take that back. Darcy was playing, but he was on about 30% game time. So Jackson basically
was he playing?
was solo rucking. He had a very, very questionable game that day, Sean Darcy. Collingwood obviously had quite a rested team that day as well. It was a good team they put out. But, Braden Maynard will be playing. He didn't play. Brody Mychek likely will be playing. Scott Pendlebury will be playing. So there's a lot of changes from the lineup in round 9 and what we're going to see this weekend. How do you see this game sort of shaping up? Because we've already mentioned that this isn't going to be one where we're going in as favourites and where we're going in with a lot of confidence. But I think it's a fun one where we can go in with a little bit of excitement and a little bit of optimism.
Well, I think it sounds pretty simple, but we have to start well. That's like, if you think Collingwood are very good front runners, we cannot let them kick away from us at the start. We have to start well. Look, the bit that worries me the most is the defence, as I've already mentioned. Shout out Banfield, love you, mate. But if I say Elliott clunking them early, it's just going to be like, oh boy, here we go again. We have to be firm down back, and I think Collingwood don't offer you that many chances to score. So I think our set shot kicking on the weekend was very good. Our set shot kicking, we didn't mention that, but I think that was I think we kicked maybe 3 behinds, we kicked 10. We kicked 11-5, I think. 12-5, and 2 of them were rushed. So we have to continue that level of accuracy. I don't know how many looks we'll get at goal against Collingwood. Very, very stable down back. We have to convert our chances. We have to start well. We have to bring the same pressure. And our back six just has to compete and not let somebody kick a bag of 6 again. Because, if you're letting Elliott kick 6 and you can bag Mychek and Membry and McStay down for at least 1 or 2 each. So look, we just have to split our matchups down back. We have to convert our chances. We have to bring pressure, and Sean Darcy has to be better than last time because Jackson got mauled by Cameron.
That was also a very underdone Sean Darcy last time we played. So I've got faith that the Fridge is going to rock up to the MCG with a bit of swagger. The first time he had some swagger on the weekend. He had some swagger against the Saints and he had a bit against the Swans. I think his swag's back, which is a very, very good thing for this footy club. Now, an important point you just mentioned is starting well. I want to cast in mind back to the last time we played these lot at the MCG. Quarter time, we were down by 5, 25-20. Yep. So first quarter, we lost by 5. The third quarter, we lost by 1, 14-13. The fourth quarter, we actually won 21-13. So it was very, very even for those 3 quarters. The second quarter, we lost 61-13.
I can remember that. That's when Brandon Walker
we lost 10 goals to 2. Yeah, Brandon Walker had a bad injury that day. So starting well is very, very important because if you're going to give up a second quarter, like starting well can either mean the first 10 minutes or the first half of the game. But in particular, the first half, as long as we stick in there, we were stuck in there at quarter time in that game. And by the second quarter, by half time, 10 goals to 2 and a quarter. Are we taking the piss, lads? Like, I don't want to go at a team that we're playing 2 years ago, but that is absolutely baffling how we let that happen. Like, we had Liam Henry on the park with Ethan Hughes. It was a bit of a makeshift, Joel Hamling. It was a makeshift team. But that being said, we can't let that happen again. And it's going to be the exact same hostile crowd. Starting well is super, super important.
Well, the last 3 weeks have been very strong in the second half. Now, Collingwood did the Kings or the comeback and all that sort of stuff. But, if it's an even game at half time, you'd maybe go, if say this is the Dockers of 10 weeks here, you go, Collingwood are over the top of us here. But I feel like we've been putting in serviceable 4-quarter efforts. I mean serviceable, like it's been a pretty consistent 4 quarters of footy. Like, as you mentioned then, we played 1 quarter and we conceded 10 goals. I'm confident that won't happen, and we can hold a consistent level across the whole game. That anything can happen, but it does scare me having lapses against Collingwood because they'll just kill you, mate. I think they kicked on Friday night. They kicked like 5 goals in like 10 minutes or something against the Suns, who are a pretty good team. Like they can just put spurts on and go bang, 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 and game's gone. So look, all I can ask for is a good, consistent 4-quarter effort because if we can with the Pies for 4 quarters. Now let's say we lose by four goals, realistically. I'd say, and we didn't say it's a 4-goal loss. We lost each quarter by a goal. I'd go, okay, fair enough. They're a better team, but we stuck with them. But if a similar thing happened the last time where we compete with them for 3 quarters and get blown away in 1 quarter, it would honestly frustrate me. So I just hope it's consistent 4-quarter effort, and I won't be angry if that's the case, either way of the result.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. The thing that pisses me off is that we've just had a win where it's got me talking like I'm a Roman leader from the 15th century about how this is a turning point and this is a change in the tide. If this podcast has gone from this to next week being a dour whinge fest about how poorly we played against Collingwood, I won't be happy. Can this please be a different Fremantle? Please tell me we can back this up. We've won 7 and 8. I've got faith that we actually have turned a corner and that we can really take it to Collingwood and maybe, just maybe, get the 4 points. I'm not expecting it. That's not my expectation. But if we want to be the best, if we want to get taken to the promised land, we have to beat the best. And what a step it would be by beating the Pies on Sunday.
Mate, honestly, I know you're in the rooms after the game on Sunday, but can they get you in the rooms before the game on Sunday? Because, wow, mate, very good inspirational efforts there. But yeah, look, as I said, all I'm hoping for is a competitive 4-quarter effort, and I hope we don't disgrace ourselves. And if we do lose, I hope it's honourable, as much as I hate that honourable loss term. Look, you're playing Collingwood at the MCG. I think an honourable loss would be okay. But if you want my prediction, mate, I'm going to go Fremantle by 2 points.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Fremantle by 2 points. Why not? Get it in you. There is zero confidence behind any of our predictions, but why not have a bit of fun? As you mentioned, I was in the room. They had a little bit of a yarn to our Skip after the game, and he seemed pretty confident that he'll be back for the game on Sunday against the Pies. Now, I'm not sure how much faith I've got in Alex's words, considering, we don't know each other personally. He might just be saying that to give me a bit of hope and to be nice. But I'm going to take his word for what he said. I think Alex Pearce is going to play on Sunday. I think it was just a bit of a hot spot. Pulled up a bit sore after the Swans game. And we need him because Collingwood forward line's pretty damn scary. So it would be handy to have him back. We've already talked about Brandon Walker as a very possible inclusion. And Hayden Young's the other big talking point because I think he'll come back through the waffle. But I watched him train last week and I'll watch him train again on Wednesday. But geez, he looked good. There are a few guys that played on the week and they were in the rehab group with Fifey and Cooper Simpson. Hayden Young was in the full intensity 18v18 match him, tackling Andy Brayshaw, tackling Caleb Sarong, running like he never left. There's a chance he plays this weekend, but my expectation would be waffle.
Yeah, well, even if he plays for Peel, they've got East Fremantle, so it's going to be a good hit out for them regardless. But I'd probably say I hope he plays waffle because you don't want a reoccurrence to happen. But yeah, I think I assume if Pearce plays, you go Max straight swap, which you can say harsh or whatever, but that's just what will happen, unfortunately. And yeah, Walker, Banfield is my only. Well, I don't know if it's a really predicted change because Banfield being dropped is about as rare as the sun not coming up. But if I had to say and guess there'll be one change, it would be Banfield omitted, or maybe I might even say managed just to make it look honourable and Walker in.
Yeah. There's a chance. I don't think they will. Now, if Hayden Young theoretically did come in, who's out? I know I've chucked you on the spot harshly there, but someone's got to make way when Young does come back.
Matt Johnson.
Do you think it'll happen though? Do you actually think that Matt Johnson will leave the team?
Well, okay. Maybe Dudley.
Oh, that's what I think. I think
Hayden Young sub.
Yeah, I think that is the most logical thing. It's not necessarily rushing Youngie back, but it's
until
making
someone
sure
goes down to the first quarter.
Jeez, Matt, we'll just play him on 20% game time then. But yeah, I think Youngie as a sub would be a real luxury to have on the weekend. And if we could find a way to do that, I'd be very, very happy with it. But yeah, it's probably likely that he plays for Peel and has an absolute walkover against East Freo because they are probably the easiest
10-goal Peel win coming up there.
Yeah, exactly right. Where is it? Shark Park?
Good Grocer Park, mate. Shark Park.
Yeah, Shark Park. There you go. Good Grocer is a very good supermarket, so I'm a bit disappointed they decided to sponsor the East Freo Oval. A bit flat about that. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there unless you've got anything else to add.
No, not at all, mate. But yeah, hopefully, as I've said for the 5th time, competitive effort. That's all I hope for. hopefully we don't dominate and lose again like last time we played Collingwood, and hopefully we don't give them the game by just horrific skill errors like we did last time as well. So hopefully we've improved since last time we played them, which I think we have. So let's go prove it against the best at their home ground. That's all I've got for you, my good sir.
It's going to be a very, very exciting game on Sunday. Stay across all the content throughout the week on YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. We'll be live for the teams on Friday. We'll be live for the watch party, the live reaction on Sunday, as well as the fan cams after the game Sunday evening. Zach, thank you very much once again for joining me. Drews has a 6-week injury, and you're serving a very almost an OMAC role at the moment. We've got the captain out, and OMAC's coming in, and he's putting in.
At least you didn't call me Banfield, mate.
Thank you all for watching. Stay across everything on all the socials. Up the Dockers. We'll see you next time.